Welcome back to Fusty Stories. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and get ready for another story you won't forget. Let's dive back to the story. Amelia Collins believed she was living the life every woman dreamed of: a cozy townhouse in Richmond, weekend brunches by the Thames, and a husband who kissed her forehead each morning before work. Nathan Collins was everything a partner appeared to be: charming, ambitious, and articulate. Together, they were the picture of modern British success. Neighbors admired them. Colleagues envied them. But beneath the polished surface, a slow rot was spreading, one Amelia was too in love to see. Nathan had become distant, restless, answering texts with clip replies, spending late nights at client dinners. Amelia brushed it off as stress, convincing herself that once things at his firm settled, the warmth would return. Love, after all, demanded patience. One cloudy Tuesday, as the drizzle painted faint trails on their kitchen window, Amelia found herself alone again at dinner. The candlelight flickered across untouched food, her heart aching at the emptiness of the seat opposite her. Yet she still smiled, whispering a prayer that tomorrow would be better. What she didn't know was that miles away, Nathan sat across from another woman, Vanessa Reed, laughing freely, his wedding ring tucked neatly in his jacket pocket. The perfect marriage she clung to was already over. She just hadn't received a memo. A week later, while tidying Nathan's office, Amelia stumbled upon an envelope marked confidential. Her curiosity wrestled with guilt, but a small voice urged her to look. A wife had the right to know. Inside lay documents that sent a chill down her spine. Petition for dissolution of marriage. Nathan Collins versus Amelia Collins. Her hands trembled as she read the date, filed 3 months ago. Her knees weakened. The room spun. Nathan had secretly divorced her. Without warning, without confrontation. The signature on the last page was hers, forged perfectly. The betrayal pierced deeper than any knife. Hours later, when Nathan came home, Amelia confronted him, her voice breaking between disbelief and fury. "You divorced me behind my back?" she cried. Nathan's calm response, void of emotion, was colder than winter itself. "You'll survive, Amelia. You're too soft for the life I want." His words shattered every memory she held dear. As the door slammed, she felt something inside her die. The marriage that once defined her was gone, and for the first time, she realized she'd been living in someone else's illusion. The days that followed blurred into sleepless nights and tear-stained mornings. Amelia wandered through their home like a ghost, every photograph mocking her naivety. Friends tried to reach her, but humiliation silenced her phone. She could barely stand to look in a mirror. The confident woman she once knew was gone. What hurt most wasn't just the deceit, but how easily Nathan erased her, as though she'd been an accessory to his success rather than its foundation. Bills piled up, and she learned he had drained their joint account. Eventually, Amelia packed what she could into 2 suitcases and left. She moved into a modest flat in Croydon, its walls bare but mercifully hers. The silence there was different, painful but honest. Slowly, she began writing again, something she had abandoned years ago. Each journal entry bled sorrow, but with each page her spirit stirred. The betrayal that broke her also gave her clarity. Nathan's lies did not define her worth. Somewhere within the wreckage, Amelia began to imagine a future where she was no longer his shadow. One evening, wandering aimlessly, Amelia noticed a poster pinned to a cafe window. Women's Healing Support Group, every Thursday at 7 p.m. She almost walked past, but something about the word healing and support tugged at her heart. That night, she sat among strangers, women scarred by heartbreak, infidelity, and loss. Listening to their stories felt like inhaling oxygen after months underwater. A woman named Chloe Bennett spoke about surviving her husband's betrayal and finding her power again. Her voice was steady, her laughter bright. Amelia envied that strength but stayed quiet, just absorbing every word. Weeks passed, and the group became her refuge. Through shared pain, she learned that healing wasn't linear. Some nights she wept, others she laughed. Chloe took her under her wing, inviting her for walks, reminding her of her worth. "He broke your trust, not your destiny," Chloe said once, squeezing her hand. Those words etched themselves into Amelia's soul. For the first time, she began to believe that maybe, just maybe, she could start again, not as a victim, but as a woman reborn. Healing came quietly. Amelia got a new job as a receptionist at a design firm in South London, humble, but it gave her purpose. Every morning, She walked to work with her hair tied neatly, a soft confidence growing behind her tired eyes. Her colleagues liked her calmness, unaware of the storm she had survived. Nights were still lonely, but instead of tears, she poured herself tea and wrote. She imagined stories of women who rose from betrayal stronger than ever. She didn't realize those stories mirrored her own. On a rainy Friday, Chloe convinced her to join a charity raffle. Amelia chuckled, thinking it silly, but bought a single ticket. "You never know," Chloe teased. They laughed, unaware that this small act would soon alter Amelia's destiny. The ticket, folded neatly in her purse, became a quiet symbol of chance, of hope, and of the unpredictable beauty of second beginnings. The morning everything changed again like any other: cold cereal, soft jazz, and emails. Half asleep, Amelia turned on the TV and froze when she heard the announcer's voice. The winning numbers for the National Lottery are... Her pulse quickened. She fished out the ticket, barely expecting a match, but one number aligned. Then another. Then all of them. Her breath caught. She checked again, trembling. It was real. She had won. 32 million pounds. The room spun. She sank to her knees, laughter and disbelief mingling with tears. Hours later, her life was unrecognizable. Reporters camped outside her building, and her phone buzzed with congratulatory calls. Chloe arrived, screaming and hugging her. "You deserve this, love." The universe finally noticed. That night, amid flashing cameras and chaos, Amelia sat quietly by the window. For months she had begged for closure, for something to make sense, and fate had answered in the most poetic way possible. She didn't just win money. She won freedom. Within weeks, Amelia moved into a new home in Richmond Hill, spacious, sunlit, and serene. She hired a financial advisor and decided to use the wealth wisely. No flashy sports cars or tabloids. She wanted peace, purpose, and control. The first thing she did was donate to the same women's group that saved her. The gesture went viral, and for the first time, people knew her name not as Nathan Collins' wife, but as Amelia Collins, survivor, philanthropist, inspiration. She met Helen Fraser, a kind older woman from the Lottery Commission, who became her unofficial mentor. "Money reveals who we are, dear," Helen said. "Use it to become who you were meant to be." Inspired, Amelia took business courses and dreamed of opening her own cafe, a space for healing and conversation. She could feel her late father, Charles Hart, smiling down at her. The broken woman from Croydon was gone. In her place stood someone unshakable, glowing from within. One cold evening, months after her win, Amelia returned home to find a figure standing at her gate. Rain poured, soaking his expensive coat, but she recognized him instantly, Nathan. His once polished demeanor was gone. His eyes were hollow, his voice cracked. "Amelia, I need to talk." For a moment, she couldn't breathe. The man who had crushed her now looked like a shadow of himself. Apparently, his firm had collapsed, his mistress had vanished, and debts followed him like ghosts. "I made mistakes," he stammered. "I thought I wanted freedom, but I lost everything." Amelia listened, stone-faced, the thunder echoing his desperation. "You didn't lose everything, Nathan," she said softly. "You threw it away." He begged her for another chance, claiming love, regret, and fate brought him back. She smiled faintly, not with affection, but pity. "You're too late," she whispered before walking inside, leaving him in the rain. For the first time, the power was hers. Instead of dwelling on the past, Amelia turned her energy toward creation. She bought an old corner cafe on Kensington High Street and began renovations. She named it New Beginnings. Every wall carried warm colors, each table designed to invite comfort and conversation. She hired women from struggling backgrounds, giving them the same second chance life had given her. Chloe and Leo Turner, the chef she met during setup, became her backbone, their laughter filling the space with hope. When the cafe finally opened, lines stretched around the block. Journalists called it a sanctuary born from betrayal. Fiona Miles, a reporter, interviewed Amelia, who spoke honestly about pain, forgiveness, and the strength to rise again. The story spread nationwide. Women wrote letters saying her journey gave them courage to leave toxic marriages. Amelia realized she didn't just rebuild her life. She had built a movement. Weeks later, Amelia hosted a charity brunch at her cafe, inviting community leaders and survivors alike. To her shock, Nathan appeared uninvited, looking even more desperate than before. Cameras captured the moment he knelt before her, begging forgiveness. "Please, Amelia, just listen. I've changed." The room fell silent. Every eye turned toward her. For a heartbeat, the old Amelia, the one who once loved him, flickered inside. Then she smiled sadly. "I forgave you long ago," she said into the microphone. "But forgiveness isn't an invitation to return." Her calm voice carried through the cafe, applauded by the crowd. Nathan's face reddened as he realized the woman before him wasn't a fragile wife he'd abandoned. She was a legend born from his betrayal. Security escorted him out gently, and Amelia turned back to her guests, her poise unbroken. That night, newspapers called it the classiest revenge in London. And they were right. She had turned heartbreak into triumph, pain into power, and silence into a story that would inspire thousands. Amelia's Cafe, New Beginnings, became more than a business. It became a movement. Newspapers, lifestyle blogs, and talk shows highlighted her transformation. She wasn't just a lottery winner. She was a woman reborn from ashes. Invitations flooded in, but Amelia stayed humble, focused on authenticity. One morning, as she sipped a latte by the window, she noticed women from all walks of life visiting her cafe, finding solace within its walls. She had unknowingly created a sanctuary for the brokenhearted. Still, not everyone celebrated her success. Nathan's friends whispered rumors that she owed her fame to luck, not hard work. Yet Amelia didn't respond. She had learned silence could be the loudest response. Chloe reminded her, "You're not proving anything to him anymore. You're proving it to yourself." Those words resonated deeply. Amelia wasn't chasing validation. She was building legacy. Every time she looked at the golden New Beginning sign glinting in the morning light, she knew her story was no longer about revenge. It was about rebirth. As New Beginning soared, a corporate investor, Leonard Price, approached Amelia with an offer to expand the brand across the UK. His proposal was tempting, cafes in Manchester, Edinburgh, even Paris. Yet part of her hesitated. Growth meant losing the intimacy she loved, the connection with every story that walked through her doors. She asked Leo Turner, her loyal chef and confidant, for advice. "Expansion changes everything," he said. "But maybe it's time the world heard your message." That night, Amelia walked along the Thames, remembering how small her world once felt. Now, opportunities stretched before her like an open skyline. She decided to expand, but on her own terms. She would launch a foundation alongside the business, a charity to support women starting over. It wouldn't just serve coffee. It would serve hope. Signing the deal, she felt her father's spirit guiding her. "Courage, my girl," his voice whispered in memory. And for the first time, Amelia wasn't afraid of the future. The Hart Foundation for Women launched 3 months later, named after her late father, Charles Hart. Its mission: help women rebuild their lives after betrayal, abuse, or loss. The first event gathered hundreds, survivors, community leaders, and supporters. The atmosphere was electric. Chloe introduced Amelia with pride, calling her the heartbeat of resilience. Cameras flashed, applause thundered, but Amelia only smiled gently, humbled by how far she'd come. As she addressed the crowd, she didn't speak of pain, but of power. "We can't control who breaks us," she said, her voice steady. "But we can control who we become after." Her words drew tears from many. That night, donations poured in, ensuring the foundation's success. Watching the numbers climb, Amelia whispered a silent thank you to the universe for every scar that shaped her, every heartbreak that redirected her path. Without them, she'd never have become the woman she was now. Success didn't shield her from memories. Some nights, Amelia dreamed of her old home, of the woman she once was, begging for Nathan's attention. The contrast between that timid version and her present self haunted her like a ghost. She often visited Chloe, who teased her gently. "You can't rewrite the past, love, but you can outshine it." Amelia smiled, though a quiet ache lingered. Meanwhile, rumors spread that Nathan had filed for bankruptcy. His luxury car was repossessed, his flat emptied, and Vanessa Reed, the mistress who once flaunted her designer life, had vanished. A mutual acquaintance told Chloe that Nathan was living in a shared flat, working odd jobs. When Amelia heard, she didn't gloat. Instead, she whispered, "I hope he finds peace." It wasn't forgiveness for him. It was closure for herself. True revenge, she realized, wasn't ruin. It was indifference. Fate however, wasn't finished with Nathan. On a rainy afternoon, as Amelia left a charity event in central London, she saw a disheveled man sitting on the pavement, begging for change. Her heart jolted when she recognized him, Nathan. His hair was messy, his clothes threadbare, and shame clouded his eyes. "Amelia," he whispered hoarsely, "please, don't walk away." For a moment, she stood frozen, pity warring with pain. Memories of his cruelty flooded back, the cold dismissal, the hidden divorce papers, the laughter with another woman. "You taught me that love without respect is poison," she said quietly. "I hope you learn to heal, but I'm not your cure." Leaving a 100-pound note beside him, she turned and walked away. The rain washed over her as she smiled faintly. The tears she once shed were now as to bear. Months passed, and Leo Turner became more than just a business partner. He was her steady calm amid chaos, the kind of man who didn't fix her, but walked beside her as she healed herself. Late nights at the cafe turned into shared dinners, laughter, and quiet understanding. Still, Amelia moved cautiously. Love, to her, was no longer a fairy tale, but a choice made in truth. One evening, as they closed the cafe, Leo took her hand and said, "I don't want to replace anyone. I just want to be where you are." For the first time in years, Amelia's heart fluttered without fear. She smiled. "Then stay." It wasn't a grand declaration, but it was real, gentle, grounded, and sincere. The kind of love that didn't demand her to shrink, but invited her to shine. With success came scrutiny. Reporters still chased her story, hoping for more drama. Ex-husband of lottery winner spotted homeless, splashed across tabloids. Amelia ignored it, though deep down, she feared people would think she gloated. To protect her peace, she took a quiet retreat to Cornwall, where sea winds whispered calm. There, she wrote a book titled New Beginnings, How Betrayal Built My Strength. The memoir became an instant hit, not for its scandal, but for its sincerity. Readers saw themselves in her words, finding comfort in her truth. During a signing, a young woman approached her with tears in her eyes. "Your story saved me," she said. Amelia hugged her, realizing her pain had found purpose. She no longer wished to erase her past. She was grateful for it. It had sculpted her into a beacon for others. Months later, the Hart Foundation received national recognition. Mayor Harriet Blake invited Amelia to a ceremony at the Royal Albert Hall, honoring women who reshaped their communities. Cameras flashed as Amelia accepted the award, her voice steady yet emotional. "This isn't just mine," she said. "It belongs to every woman who refused to be defined by someone else's choices." Leo stood proudly beside her, and Chloe wiped away tears. The audience rose in applause, not for a lottery winner, but for a woman who turned heartbreak into hope. The next morning, newspapers hailed her as Britain's beacon of resilience. Amelia smiled reading the headlines, not for fame, but for validation that her scars had become her crown. Months later, fate crossed paths one last time. Nathan appeared outside her cafe, older, frielier, but sober and calm. "I came to thank you," he said softly. "You were right. I had to lose everything to understand what I destroyed." Amelia nodded, her heart surprisingly serene. "I wish you peace," she said simply. They stood in silence, strangers bound only by a shared past. Nathan walked away slowly, disappearing into the London crowd. Amelia watched until he vanished, then whispered a quiet prayer, not of anger but closure. That moment didn't feel like revenge. It felt like release. She finally realized she didn't win because she had money. She won because she regained herself. Years later, Amelia stood inside New Beginnings, now a chain across the UK. Children laughed, women chatted, and sunlight spilled through the glass. She sipped her coffee beside Leo, now her husband, while Chloe organized another charity event. Her journey had come full circle, from pain to peace, from betrayal to brilliance. As she looked around, Amelia smiled, remembering the frightened woman she once was. That woman was gone, but her spirit lived in every life touched by new beginnings. On the cafe wall hung a framed quote she'd written herself. "They broke me in silence, but I rebuilt in strength." And with that, Amelia Collins, once discarded, once underestimated, became living proof that even the deepest betrayal can lead to the most beautiful freedom. That's all for today. Like, subscribe, and see you in the next episode. Stay tuned.